Okay, hello and welcome to Mads and Niels talks about Macbeth the movie. We'll talk a little bit about the setting of the movie and also a characterization of Macbeth. The movie takes place in the 11th century England and Scotland, and most of the story takes place around in battlefields and also in the castles and the villages around the castle. Mostly of the story is the color or the contrasts in the movie are mainly dark and very gray and foggy, which also tells us something about the characters, Macbeth in the story. The way that the environment is fogged always show it also tells us something about Macbeth's mind. He can't see very clear and is very blinded by his ignorance in some way. Also, we have the color red, which also dominates the movie a lot, which also shows something about some of the themes in the movie, which is murder and blood and betrayal.
And you can also say that many of the scenes with Macbeth is in a foggy environment, and therefore you could say that the setting in some way shows or reveals the characters, because they symbolize his ignorance to the future, and also the part with the red, because it clarifies the themes of murder in the setting symbolize both Macbeth and his character, but also the themes in the film and the book.
Yeah.
Should we say character?
Okay.
In the beginning, we meet a brave warrior in Macbeth, and he's a good fighter, and he's able to murder. He's a noble warrior who's willing to sacrifice his life for his country. But then after he meets the riches, he starts to become ambitious, which is his fatal flaw, because in this time it was known that if you were born as some rank, you would stay in that rank for your entire life, and you wouldn't move up in society or down. So it was a bad thing to be ambitious, and then together with Lady Macbeth, he decides to kill King Duncan, because that will make him king. And after the murder, he becomes paranoid and unsure of his decisions, and he starts to seek answers from the witches, which he doubted at the beginning.
Yeah. So we have Macbeth, who goes through a change in the movie. From the start, he's this very brave warrior and noble man who fights for his country, and in the end he becomes this doubtful king full of hatred and kills the innocent. Yeah, and something that describes this scenario very good is when he says that his mind is full of scorpions. When he says that, we discover a different dimension of Macbeth. He feels shame over his deeds, and it's eating him up inside until there's no moral left. Which also shows that he actually is a person who feels shame over what he's done. He don't like what he has done in the past by killing. Yeah. But as Macbeth keeps on doing these bad deeds and keep on killing person, he becomes this person with no moral left, and he's driven by his megalomania, and he's probably also suffering from some post traumatic stress disorder. So the change that Macbeth goes through is that the nobleman from the start to the end, where he ended up being this hatred person. Hate, yeah, and it's also shown very clearly when he kills what is it is. Do you remember what his the family he kills? Doesn't matter. The family he kills. We also see how that they're suffering, they're begging for it, and his stone cold face lights up the fire and kills him. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the end, he's fighting Malcolm, but he stops the fight because Malcolm tells him that he was cut from his mother's womb, and the prophecy said that Macbeth couldn't be harmed by any man born by a woman, and this indicates that Malcolm wasn't born by his mother. And the prophecy is so strong in Macbeth, and he believes it so much that he decides to stop, even though he actually did win the fight. He stops and lets and makes Malcolm end his life. And this shows how powerful destiny is, which also is a theme in the film, that you can escape destiny, and this shows how strong destiny is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Cheers.